California next on deck to kick Trump off their ballot, and they're not alone. Many other states are doing the same thing. We're going to talk about a slew of them and get an update. But California's lieutenant governor, her name is Eleni Kounalakis, she submitted a letter saying it's time for a full-blown investigation. She's got Colorado fever, man, and the only remedy is more Trump removal. And so she launched an investigation that we're going to take a look at, and we're going to get an update on how these dominoes are falling all around the country, or at least how they're setting them up to fall. And now that Colorado has been the first one, we'll see where else it goes. Now, Frank Luntz is also admitting to us that Trump's poll numbers are going to go up. Just as we predicted after the indictments, they're going to make Trump a martyr. They're going to try to take him out. And I don't know about you, but every single time they do something like this, I can become more fortified and more energized, man. And I have a new passion for a new revelation for how confirmed we are that these people are maddening. So Frank Luntz is now saying that, yeah, poll numbers are going to go up. Even John Bolton's like, yeah, it's kind of a bad decision. We'll hear from the Democrats on the left, very excited about it. You can see Shifty Schiff has a little glow in his eye. And then we'll hear from the right, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, and JD Vance all reacting. So what is California doing and what are the other states doing? Well, this is what the letter looks like from this woman, Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis. And she sent this one out hot on the heels, man. She's still got a glow this morning. She's like, oh man, it's such a great day to be a communist tyrant dictator. Says Eleni Kounalakis, a lieutenant governor on December 20th, wrote to the Honorable California Secretary of State. Oh, great. Just like the one in Colorado. Says, Dear Secretary Weber, coming from the Newsom's number 2, says, based on the Colorado Supreme Court's ruling in Anderson versus Griswold, I urge you to explore every legal option to remove former President Trump from California's 2024 presidential primary ballot. These people are sick. Just based on this, we can get them off the ballot? Text everyone. I am prompted by the Colorado Supreme Court's recent ruling that former President Trump is ineligible to appear on the state's ballot as a presidential candidate due to his role in inciting an insurrection. Now, this decision is about honoring the rule of law in our country and protecting fundamental pillars of our democracy. These people are so dumb. They'd have nothing else to say other than those things. You're going to protect the pillars of your democracy, moron, by removing, like in the same sentence, in the same document, you're going to remove the president and then you're going to protect the fundamental pillars of democracy. They're insane. Like the cognitive dissonance here. Do you understand what the word democracy means? Because it means the people get to vote for things. So it's just crazy. Anyways, so she's demented. I don't know how high I don't know what kind of drugs these people are on or what's going on, but it's out of control. Specifically, the Supreme Court held in Anderson versus Griswold that Trump's insurrection disqualifies him under the 14th Amendment to stand for presidential re-election. And because the candidate is ineligible, the court ruled, it would be a wrongful act for Colorado to put him on the candidate. Thanks for explaining it. We all know. Now, further, the Colorado Supreme Court cites conservative justices like Neil Gorsuch, who said the following. They said, as then Judge Gorsuch recognized in Hassan, it's a state's legitimate interest in protecting the integrity and the practical functioning of the political process that permits it to exclude from the ballot candidates who are constitutionally prohibited from assuming office, even though that wasn't on point. But they say, look, California must stand on the right side of history, like little dictator maniacs, and California is obligated to determine if Trump is ineligible for the ballot for the same reasons. The Colorado decision can be the basis for a similar decision here in our state. Exactly right. Domino. The Constitution is clear. Listen to this moron. Says you must be 40 years old, which is wrong. It's 35, idiot, and not be an insurrectionist. And she might have corrected this in a more recent update. I'm not sure. But anyways, pretty stupid. Now, there will be the inevitable political punditry about a decision to remove Trump from the ballot. Yeah, because it's anti-democratic, literally. But this is not a matter of political gamesmanship, I'm sure. This is a dire matter that puts at stake the sanctity of our Constitution. She should have capitalized that little commie. We cherish the Constitution here and our democracy. Now, time is of the essence. Okay, you have to go fast because Trump is winning. A certified list of candidates is coming up in March. The primary election is coming up next week, December 28th, 2023. And so thank you for all your work to make our state's elections a shining example across this country of how dictator-like maniac tyrants act. Thanks for your time and consideration on this urgent matter. These people are lunatics, man. So this is Ambassador Eleni Kounalakis, who can't even recognize that she's asking in the name of preserving democracy in the Constitution, which says you can vote for people, says that we need to remove him in order to preserve our democracy. So they're kind of, psychopaths. But this is just the beginning, my friends, and this is what we were fearing all along, that there was going to be this onslaught. Unless the Supreme Court does something about it, things might be a bit precarious. We had this over on the X platform, a nice assembly of what's happening by Mario Nafal. He says, here is what's happening. Colorado has already ruled that Trump is ineligible. Okay, that one's done. Maine, we've got a decision expected Friday. California, we just heard from the lieutenant governor. New Hampshire, they're considering the 14th Amendment right now. Michigan, there's another lawsuit taking place to bar Trump there over insurrection, and they may soon join other states in making the case. Arizona is currently investigating it. They said we lack authority, but they're going to wait and see. And New Mexico also has a similar thing happening. And that's as of today, okay? They've got a victory now. So just wait until all those billionaires start saying, what else can we do about this? So is this going to hurt Trump? I'm not so sure about it, man. Every time they take one of these measures, I think it consolidates his base. I know it incentivizes me. It fires me up to come here and defend against this madness. But Frank Luntz is confirming that he thinks the poll numbers are going to go up too. Now, the problem with this is it doesn't really matter what the polls say if he's not on the ballot. Understand that one. And if something happens, like they kick him off, the Supreme Court says, we're just going to let the states decide, whatever, for some reason. Then we have literally, basically a civil war happening that's taking place vis-a-vis an election. And I have my doubts that they're going to do that, but we saw what they did in 2020. We covered that here at length, my friends. We were watching Ted Cruz and all the attorneys general submit their brief to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court just looked the other way. They're not going to get involved. They told us it's a state's issue, right? And so the states dealt with it. They decided there was no rigged elections because all the judges were mirroring the Colorado judges, and everything, just left. And now we'll see if anything changes. But here's Frank Luntz saying, poll numbers are going to go up, saying this is probably not good for the Democrats, saying that this is going to turn Trump into a martyr and people are going to react accordingly.
And for more on the political impact, we're joined now by pollster and communication strategist Frank Luntz, who has been getting the pulse of Trump voters for years.
Let's get this volume up.
The obvious first question, Frank, what do you think the impact of this ruling will be, their support for him?
It's going to be exactly what the indictments did. It's going to be exactly what the criticisms have done. Donald Trump thrives on negativity. He thrives on legal systems that try to hold him accountable. And I'm convinced.
You hear his language? This is a language guy, so he thrives on legal systems that try to hold him accountable. What are you talking about, Frank? These are weaponized political attacks by partisan opponents. It's not a legal system. He's very careful with language, okay? You got to be careful with this guy. He focus groups and tests everything, and it's all just like almost every sentence is propaganda. But listen.
Instead, his polling numbers are going to go up. Just today, the New York Times published 6 key swing states and had Donald Trump up beyond the margin of error in 5 out of the 6. The polling earlier a month ago was significant. Trump is gaining. The more that he is prosecuted, the more that he is condemned, the higher his numbers go as people rally around him.
Indict him again.
And I would say to the judges, as I said to the Justice Department, you're actually making it more likely that Donald Trump is elected next November by how you are pursuing this. You don't explain the decisions. You don't put things in context. And so Trump climbs and climbs and climbs. And right now, he's beating Joe Biden clearly nationwide.
Well, for the judges would say, look, we're just going by the law without fear of favor. And but does the context even matter to Trump supporters? Because there have been. Tonight's ruling was really lengthy, explaining point by point why they believe he incited the insurrection, why the 14th Amendment applies to him. But to the average Trump supporter, does that context even matter? Is this more about, once again, Trump is the...
Can they even read? Do they even know anything that's happening in this country? Do they have 2 sticks that they can rub together? We just read the opinion here, lady. The context is that you are trying to remove a citizen from a ballot that 100+ million Americans want to vote for. What other context do you need?
The victim of the deep state kind of thinking.
It actually proves Trump's point.
That's right. It does.
It proves that the people in charge, the people in power, are trying to take him down. You're not trying to reach all the Trump voters. You're simply trying to reach 3 or 4% of them that will make a difference in this election. Now, make no mistake, there's very few undecided voters right now. There are very few people who are going back and forth between Trump and Biden. It's more about those people who are trying to decide whether or not to vote. And I got to tell you, Nikki Haley was gaining and gaining and gaining every single day. But she's going to be lost in the coverage for the next few days, maybe for the next couple of weeks. As Trump turns this to his advantage, he is the best victim politician politician I have ever seen in my 35 years in doing this.
The best victim politician? Are you kidding me? It's because he's been victimized, okay? Everybody is going after everything, Frank. Tishy Latish is trying to take away his business. Miss Bergdorf tried to make up a story about getting Bergdorf. And 4 indictments in multiple locations. And now they can't even, like, in addition to all of that, right? They can't even play fair. If the record is so clear, can we just go vote on this?
And this is exactly what he would have wanted in the run-up to the Iowa caucus.
Very quickly, because it stuck out to me in looking at these polls, how many people who sat out in 2020 are now saying they're going to vote and they're going to vote for Trump. So you think this just sort of supercharges that, right? It's going to just bring more people out to vote for him.
And the state that blew me away was Nevada, because that's a state with a significant percentage of Latino votes. Trump has been screaming about illegal immigration, and Nevada seems to be rewarding him for the language that he uses and for the intensity of his message. If Nevada's going this much for Trump, that ought to send you a big signal about what's happening in America today.
Ooh, man.
All right, Frank Luntz, thank you so much.
So a lot of people are saying, well, this is because maybe the Democrats want him to win. You know, the Democrats are just trying to, you know, like other Republican candidates, you know, well, that's because Democrats really want to run against Trump. That's why they're trying to consolidate support around him. All these attacks are meant to support Trump. And then when Trump wins the nomination, then they'll just steamroll over him. And you say, oh, what? You mean like 2016 when that didn't happen? So as long as they keep going after Trump, I think that Frank Luntz is actually right. This is a bad decision. It is going to support Trump, and that there's going to be more people who say, hey, Trump is right. There's a lot of sense to what he's been saying. It looks like they won't even let us vote for the guy. Maybe they weren't going to vote for him at all. Maybe Colorado is going to be in play now that they have been waken up. So this is what John Bolton, who is a rabid anti-Trumper, this is what he said about this, saying, you know, it's not a good take.
I think it's completely misplaced. I think this Colorado Supreme Court decision is badly wrong for multiple reasons. Number one, the 14th Amendment provides that Congress can pass legislation to carry its provisions into effect, which Congress has done on many aspects. It has not put anything with respect to Section 3 on the books since just after the Civil War. Second, the idea that 50 different state courts can decide a question involving the highest elective office in the executive branch, interpreting the federal Constitution as to what constitutes an insurrection against the federal government is incoherent.
Yeah.
And I think undoubtedly the Supreme Court's going to have to clear that up. In terms of what the framers of the 14th Amendment meant, I think it's quite clear that the radical Republicans in Congress who wanted to suppress the secessionist advocates and governments of the southern states that succeeded would not provide, on this critical question of the offices that are going to be denied to people who broke their oath to the United States, that you're going to put decision-making authority on that in the hands of the states, including the former secessionist states. If that was their intention, they were delusional when they did it. So I'd be willing to bet a small amount of money here that the Supreme Court, if it gets to the merits of this, if it has to, will reverse. There's no other logical way you can apply this, and it would sow chaos in elections as far as the eye could see.
Which is maybe what they want. Maybe they want there to be some other reaction to this so that they can have another J6 effort and say, see, we told you so. There's more MAGA insurrectionists out there than we thought, right? Or they create a pressure cooker that causes something to happen that they can then capitalize upon, and they say, see, we told you so. Or maybe they instigate it again. Maybe they call up Jay Schleps, and Jay Schleps, who we know related to that other guy, comes out and he does something else again, you know, later down the line. So there's a lot of possibilities here, but man, even a broken clock can be right. This is John Bolton, who is confirming what we all agree, that we all see that this case is poorly decided. Now, here's another one. This is Jamie Raskin. He showed up on MSNBC. I think pretty excited about this ruling, but what I heard from him was a little bit of a reservation on this. Let's listen to it first and then we'll comment.
The ballot, because the Constitution says you have to be 35 years old to run for president. And this disqualification clause says you cannot be on the ballot for president, or you cannot serve as president if you have participated in insurrection or rebellion against the United States. And so I would think that regardless of what your politics are, what your party is, everybody should agree that this is a question of law that's got to be settled by the courts. So this is just a question.
So a little bit of a reservation there. We all agree it's a law that needs to be settled by the court. No, we don't agree with that. Okay, this has already been settled. You have your partisan, Soros-funded civil legal groups who are filing claims in all different locations around the country as part of a lawfare, a coordinated attack to seize power. And, you know, this is not something that is normal in a free and fair election. They're trying to get their political opponent out of the board. It's as simple as that. Now, you remember this guy from the illegally constituted January 6 garbage select committees with Liz Cheney and crying at Adam Kinzinger. Well, they brought him back on an MSNBC with this woman. Just a little bit about their take. He's thrilled, man. What a great day.
Today's decision by the Colorado Supreme Court affirmed the lower court's decision that the former president had engaged in an insurrection or rebellion, but it reversed the lower court's decision that 14th Amendment does not apply to presidents, and therefore the former president whose disqualification was at issue.
Yeah, we got that.
This is not a political decision, Steph. This is an opinion of constitutional law. It has nothing.
So do you see how the memes are now creating themselves? So Raskin says, this is a legal question. No, there's no politics here at all. Are you kidding me? We're as apolitical as it gets here in the Democratic Party. So he's doing the same thing, right? It's just about the Constitution. It's just about the law. This isn't political. Has nothing to do with Trump.
To do with politics. And I've heard some commentators tonight jump to the conclusion that this is a political decision by a liberal state Supreme Court.
Yes.
It couldn't be anything further from the truth than that.
Explain.
The opinion by the Colorado Supreme Court was a masterful judicial opinion of constitutional law on the applicability of the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It will stand the test of time, as they say. I think that the Supreme Court of the United States, to affirm this decision, and based on the objective law, in this instance, the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, I believe the U.S. Supreme Court will affirm this.
We'll see if they do or not. That's Judge Luttig, one of the slowest talking people on the planet. We've also got this guy's a senator over in the Senate, and apparently that video got deleted, so it's not even worth watching. We've got this one from Adam Schiff, who posted this one. He says, Donald Trump may not be on the ballot. Listen to how excited this guy was, and we'll listen to about 20 seconds of this.
Colorado Supreme Court is in a case of this kind of significance. It's going to end up in the Supreme Court. What they'll do, there are a lot of constitutional scholars, both left, right, and center, who believe that he should be disqualified. It's not so much a question of where you view the Constitution. It is ultimately probably a decision, though, the Supreme Court is going to make about whether they're going to remove that decision from the electorate. But if they...
Did you hear what he said? The Supreme Court is going to take it away from the electorate, whether he should be qualified. The Supreme Court is going to take it away.
The Constitution. It is ultimately probably a decision, though, the Supreme Court is going to make about whether they're going to remove that decision from the electorate. But if they rule on the basis of what the language of that amendment says, its plain meaning, he should be disqualified. So big decision in Colorado, not the end of the story, but likely to, go to the Supreme Court, but a very big decision tonight in Colorado.
He's about as excited as you can see that guy. Look at that smile. He's like, right? He's got that little sparkle in the eye. So that's Shifty Schiff. And then over on Morning Joe, this woman was saying, if you don't agree with them, if you criticize Colorado, if you dare condemn these liberal lefty Democrat judges, why are you standing with the Confederacy? So in addition to the Adolf memes, now that Trump is Adolf reincarnated, we now have you're all part of the Confederacy as well if you condemn what's happening in Colorado.
To the Republican candidate's argument that the voters should have the say and not the courts.
Why are you standing with Confederates who betrayed this country? And this is what they're standing with, is the spirit of those Confederates rather than
voting in America?
Americans who came together after a long and brutal civil war that was fought to keep the Union together, and clearly saw.
This is a New York Times member of the editorial board. Her name is Mara Gay. Is she related to Claudine? I don't know. They're both writers. Somebody should check her citations. So editorial board is now saying that if you want to vote for a candidate in America in 2023, you might as well be Robert E. Lee.
A threat in ex-Confederates running for office, so much so that they amended the Constitution to prevent those traitors from running for office. That should send a message that our election system, our electoral system, can be used for nefarious purposes against the democracy itself. It's clear as day.
Clear as day. She's pretty upset about it. And somebody should ask her what party the Democrats were. The Confederates, were they Democrats? I think that they were. So it's curious. It sounds like her party is the party of the Confederacy, not the Trump people. But by wanting to vote for a candidate, you are now a member of the Confederacy. And apparently you want to return to, I guess, slaveholding times or something. So it's more insanity from those people. Let's see what the Republicans say about this. Jim Jordan was asked about this in follow-up. Of course, Congress might take some action. We've been hearing Congress, might withdraw federal funds or do something. I'm not sure any of that's going to happen in time. But here's what Jordan is talking about when he's asked about what's happening there in Colorado.
We expect this to all kick into high gear as the new year turns. Want to ask you about this Colorado Supreme Court decision on President Trump, kicking him off the primary ballot. It's clearly in limbo right now, depending on whether or not the Supreme Court takes it up. Do you believe the Supreme Court will take it up? And is it possible that this could all backfire on Democrats in Colorado by engendering more sympathy and support for President Trump?
To your first question, I do think the Supreme Court will take it up. I think they'll say this is ridiculous because it is ridiculous. Anyone with common sense can see. Even Jack Smith, who's been out to get the president, has not charged him with insurrection, which is what they cited as the reason for keeping him off the ballot. The 14th Amendment doesn't talk about the office of the president in that section of the 14th Amendment. So, and frankly, the president was put on trial and found not guilty by the United States Senate when the Democrats did their second crazy impeachment of him before. But the scariest thing of all, in my judgment, John, is the escalation with what the left will do to try to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. I mean, first it was they spied on his campaign, then it was the Mueller investigation, then it was the impeachment, then it was raiding his home, then it was indicting him in 4 different locations, 2 Jack Smith at the federal level, 2 at the state level in Atlanta and Manhattan, and now they're trying to keep him off the ballot. This from the party who talks about we're protecting democracy. It's ridiculous what they're doing to President Trump, and I think the country sees through it. So to your last question, it may in fact help him in Colorado, but certainly I believe it's going to help him around the country, and is already doing so as evidenced by the poll numbers, which show him winning in every single poll.
All right, well, we've got
It is going to be interesting to see if those numbers hold. I think that they will. And the Democrats are excited, but they may have bitten off more than they can chew. This is what J.D. Vance said about it. He says he's blasting the Colorado decision, says they're trying to use lawfare to take your right to vote away from you. And we're all Colorado now, man, because Colorado will be the first one to go, and they're going to try to do this everywhere else. And there's going to be a bunch of Republican candidates waiting in the wings to say, well, Trump's not in, he's not on the ballot in Colorado, and so maybe we shouldn't put him as the leader of the party. He can't even win 5 states because he's disqualified, so maybe I should be the next nominee. This is J.D. Vance saying this is ridiculous.
Kaylee, it's an effort to stop Donald Trump not at the ballot box, because right now they don't think they can beat Donald Trump at the ballot box, but to use lawfare, to use the legal process as a political weapon to take rights away from American voters. I will repeat this again and again. This is not just about Donald Trump. This is about millions of American voters who are being told by judges in Colorado, you don't get to vote for the candidate that you would like to vote for. How is that democracy? And how is this in any way consistent with the howls of Republicans allegedly being a threat to democracy, and then left-wing judges are telling Americans you don't get to vote for the candidate that you want to vote for? It's preposterous, Kaylee. Here's another thing, just to make a political point, you've had brilliant legal analysts. The question, I think, for Republican voters is, do we let left-wing radicals choose our nominee? They are staring us in the face saying, we dare you to select Donald Trump as your nominee. I think we take that bet and we go with the guy who's showing that he's not controlled opposition. If we are letting these people select our nominee for us, what good are we as a party? There are some great people running, but this is now, to me, an assault not just on one man, but on the Republican Party's ability to select its nominee for the general election.
Absolutely. That's why it's such a big deal, because it is so broad. It's not even just about Donald Trump per se. I mean, Trump is running, of course, but it's 1.3 million people in Colorado. I guess they got to go vote for Nikki Haley now, right? That's insane, right? It's not only about the Democrats beating Trump. It's also about the Republican establishment beating Trump. If Trump's not on the primary ballot, who benefits from that? Nikki Haley does. Ron DeSantis does, and allow it to go forward. And so enough of that crap, right? They're trying to take it away from the entire party. J.D. Vance is dead right about that. So shout out to J.D. And Matt Gaetz is here reacting as well, calling this what it is. He says that Democrats are trying to go after their chief political opponent. He says, I'm confident that the Supreme Court will not allow this ruling to stand, not the courts.
We are the winning team, and that's why the left is acting out so crazily. They have no arguments left to make. Who wants to vote for high crime, high taxes, high prices, and low testosterone?
Endless wars.
It's not really a winning
open
agenda, but they have to smear us as extremists, try to imprison us, commit election interference and election fraud against against us to protect their power. They're literally working to knock Donald Trump off the ballot in the name of protecting democracy. Removing the leading candidate in a national election from the ballot is the most dictatorial thing the Biden administration and their allies could ever even think of.
And they're doing it, and they're celebrating it. Schiff and others.
They're trying to beat Trump in the witness box and the jury box because they know they can never legitimately beat him at the ballot box.
Absolutely right, because they're cheaters, they're bullies, and they're censors, and they don't want to play fair. And so that, my friends, is what is happening. California is next. We've got other states that are considering the same thing. And of course, we're going to be here continuing to cover this. And so thanks for checking us out. Thanks for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, inviting a friend or family member over to come check out the show. We also have a new website up at robertgovea.com. Our shop is live. And so you can grab the latest Watcher hat. It's right here. They're great quality. This is my daily driver. And as we watch all of this disgusting behavior around the world, it's important that we remember the symbolism and the values that we hold dear. And so we explain what the symbol of the Watcher is and what it stands for, including slicing through the veils of ignorance with the sword, talking about the unbalanced scales of justice, talking about the shield. It's a great hat. It's a great way to support the show. We very much appreciate you checking out robertgovea.com/shop. We're going to be here continuing to cover all of this Trump madness and more, and we're looking forward to seeing you as we do. Thank you for subscribing, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.